Welcome one and all. It's time. The old world, Dwarf Civil War, yet again. On the eve of a 2-day tournament that's coming up, I decided it was time to test out a potential list for that event. And this isn't going to be too spoilerific of a battle report because I'm definitely going to make some changes to it, which I may well go through at the end, which could be spoilerific if you decide to hang around for that. So, let's dive in immediately. 2,000 points. Dwarven goodness. And there is the scene. So, I'll take you through my list and then I'll describe a bit more of my opponent's list and the terrain layout and such. So, who do we have leading this list? We have got the Slayer King, Ungrim Iron Fist, 315 points of monster murdering goodness. Obviously not going to be very useful against dwarves, and in fact is quite a bad option against particularly large blocks of infantry because he doesn't have that many attacks. He does make the hammerers unbreakable when he's in there, which is nice, so that's going to be good for them. There is also somewhere in here, I'll explain the weirdness of my deployment in a minute as well, and why these two heroes are not in the unit. I'll explain that fully, and it'll make perfect sense in just a couple of minutes. So we've got Burlock Daminson, who is going to provide the rangers with the ability to shoot at long range without penalty. There is also a Rune Smith with the Rune of Spellbreaking, which is going to be totally irrelevant in this game, because there is no Anvil of Doom. And even if there was, you wouldn't want your Runesmith charging towards it anyway, probably. Then, if we go back to the Hammerers unit, we've got the Thane BSB on Shield Bearers with Master Rune of Grungni and the Rune of Confusion. The Hammerers coming in with their part of the combo, which is the Master Rune of Hesitation. They also have a Rune of Battle, so some nice combat res there. Not starting them super wide, so we're going mildly into the lines here because we've got a line of rangers with a second rank though. And with the second rank, first of all, I'm thinking I don't want to be just spreading all the way across the table. I want to have the possibility... Oh, we've got Gilfoss in the chat. Good evening. So, it's something I've been talking about in some of my other recent games, is having a small second rank. Not too small so that it immediately gets shot off, but it gives your opponent something to think about when it comes to shooting at the unit, because if they kill like 8 rangers, they're not actually affecting the shots that are coming back at them in a turn. So psychologically that does something to them, and also if you have a back rank you will have the opportunity to refuse challenges as well, which isn't always a good idea, but it's nice to sometimes have the option, especially when you've got some heroes in there that you might not want to put into a challenge because they might get smushed. And there is no one in there that I feel would be critical to this unit's effectiveness in combat. For example, the Thane with Master Rune of Grungni giving a ward save to the unit. I feel like that's a critical model, so you probably wouldn't want to be refusing challenges then. But with the Hammerers, you don't have to worry about that anyway, because regular Hammerers can just accept the challenges for you. So, that's why the second rank is an idea there. So, the Rangers, there are 32 of them. It's my entire corps. They have shields, great weapons, crossbows, throwing axes. They have full command. They have a Rune of Courage as well, which isn't going to come up in this game because they're not going to be facing any fear or terror tests. And just a big old line of them. The Runesmith and the Burlock Daminson are hanging out in front. 20 Hammerers, already described them. And then we've got 15 Iron Drakes at the back. You might think that's a bit of a pointless position for them. The Iron Drakes have... See, they've got full command, they've got Trollhammer Torpedo, Cinderblast Bombs, and that's it. And I'll tell you my opponent's list and then I'll explain my bizarre deployment choices. So, my opponent has a big unit of Rangers that's very similar to mine, except they're not set up in a line, and I'll go into that in a minute as well. We've got Iron Breakers with a Runesmith and a King on Shield Bearers with 3 Runes of Fury for extra attacks, and with a 4-up ward save as well. Another unit of Rangers, this one's a bit smaller. How many's in there? Can't tell exactly because there are some characters in there as well. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That guy is actually a hero, so there's 18 of them, it looks like. That is a crossbow-toting, crossbow of doom Thane, right there. With it's the handgun combo that people use, but with a crossbow, so you get longer range on it. Then there's Burlock Daminson, represented by the Thane on an Oathstone with a handgun. And then there's a Runesmith there as well, and there's 2 Gyrocopters with steam guns. This unit of Rangers does not have great weapons, though. And there is a Doomseeker. Okay then, so let's go back to deployment, because it's quite weird, as you can tell. We've got enemies behind our lines. Obviously, with 3 units of Rangers involved, there was always going to be potential for something to appear behind enemy lines on Mountain Pass as well, so you're going to get that extra space behind the potential setup line. We've got Lydia in the chat. Good evening. And why do I have 2 heroes out in front of the Rangers? That's question number 1. Well, I changed my mind mid-deployment on what I was going to do, and I decided to instead try and lay a trap. But it was after I'd put the characters down I actually decided to do this. So my plan was, initially, to have my line of Rangers in front here, just outside my deployment zone, so that in turn 1 I'd be in range to start shooting the enemy Rangers. However, that's why the character's there. After we then got into the scouting phase, I then decided, actually, I don't like the idea of my Rangers going up against 2 units of enemy Rangers. If I put them here, there could be another unit of enemy Rangers there, for example, in a big long line, and 2 lines of them shooting at me. I wouldn't be in cover, because the woods are back here, so I don't think that would end well for me. So I decided to take the risk and assume that I'm going to get the first turn so that my characters don't get shot. And I'm going to put my Rangers instead, partially in the woods. But importantly, the position I've got them in, the enemy Rangers can't set up over on this side. They could still set up over here, but they'd be shooting at a Ranger unit in cover. And if they want to do that, that's okay with me, because I would have the slight edge there, and I feel like I would shoot down one of them before they shot me, possibly. These ones have to move to be in range to shoot anyway. But I've got them angled slightly, not only so they're in the woods, but also to squeeze the space behind my deployment zone. So I was inviting a unit of Rangers to drop in here, because the Iron Drakes are in there as well. The Iron Drakes were initially deployed as a counter to enemies that were going to scout into my deployment zone, but then I realised that if I had the Rangers here, they could go right in this corner, which would be way too far away from the Iron Drakes. So because I've stretched out my unit all the way down here at this slight angle, the position that these guys can deploy, it's limited because of this angle. Like the 12-inch line goes to like right to there. So unless they go super thin right up to the board edge, which is a bit risky, and in fact I don't think they could even fit doing that, because they're so wide, or there's so many models in there, there isn't going to be enough space for them to fit as like a single file all the way, or a single rank, should I say, all the way down here, because the Iron Drakes are blocking off the zone all the way to there as well. So this is pretty much the only space they can drop in. So now they're going to be in range of the Iron Drakes, who can just do a reform and start shooting them. And my Rangers could also spin round on the spot and start shooting them as well. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And the trap has been sprung. The bait was taken. We'll see if it actually works out, because as you can see, this unit of Ironbreakers have already moved forward along with the Doomseeker, because they have the Stroller's rune on them. So their plan is obviously to go forward in marching column and fight me with their king. And you may think Hammerers versus Ironbreakers, Hammerers with Ungrim and a Thane BSB giving me ward save in there, surely I'm going to win that fight. I am not so sure. I think I've got a decent chance. Hammerers are pretty good against Ironbreakers because of their magical attacks, so they're going to shut down the ward save on the Ironbreakers. However, Ungrim, as I was saying, is not ideal against infantry. Not a lot of attacks. And he's ideal for killing big monsters. And I don't think the Ironbreakers are going to be foolish enough to charge into the Hammerers and give me extra attacks, because they wouldn't even get their initiative bonus. The Hammerers would be going first, probably. Do Hammerers have a higher initiative? Yeah, because they'd get charged, so the Hammerers' initiative goes up by 1 as well. So it'd be a bad idea to charge in. I'll probably have to charge the enemy. And I'm concerned about this guy with 1,000,000 attacks. I think he could take out Ungrim if he gets into contact with him. Obviously, if it was a challenge, I would just throw one hammer in there instead. But this guy can still rack up overkill with, I think he's got about 7 attacks with those runes of fury stacked up on his weapon. So that would be very scary. And the Ironbreakers have got good armor, so they would actually get save against most of my attacks that get through. So it's mainly this guy I'm concerned about. With his 4+ ward save as well, I don't think I'm going to kill him with anything. So if he kills Ungrim, suddenly my unit's no longer unbreakable. If he kills the Thane, suddenly I don't have a ward save anymore. And I am concerned, but I think this unit of if this unit of hammerers gets in there fresh and I manage to widen them a bit, then I'd be fairly confident. But this guy is giving me concerns, and Ungrim not being ideal against the enemy also gives me concerns. Why have I put them all the way out on this flank anyway? Well, I don't want them to get too shot up, and I was saving this area as the ranger zone, so I didn't want them behind the rangers because I want them to get involved in the game. And the Iron Drakes, as I was saying, were just a counter to any enemies deploying back here, which I then doubled down on by putting this unit there, which denies the enemy the ability to drop in this sort of area, where they potentially would have done. So, let's go into the first turn. So, we make the roll, and look at that cinematic shot there. Scout moves are made, or the Vanguard moves are made, and I win the roll, so I'm going to be going first. So, hammerers moving up as fast as they can, just to get towards the Ironbreakers. And next turn I'll be able to start using drill to go wider once I turn inwards a bit. Iron Drakes reform to shoot at the Rangers. My Rangers turn round to shoot at the enemy Rangers. And so this is a very complicated situation now, cover-wise, because I've got some guys in the woods, some partially in the woods, some not in the woods at all. Some of them in the woods but can see the entire enemy unit. Some of them outside the woods can see the whole thing. Some of them outside the woods can only see part of it. So there's lots of different stages of cover to be looking at here. And some of them can't see at all. I think this guy on the end can't see anything. And some of them are obviously in the second rank. But they don't suffer a penalty for shooting at long range, which is good. So they do actually get to hit a little bit. And I kill 5 of them. And I can live with that. I'm not worried at all about this unit of Rangers being hit in the back by anything, because what would it be? A gyrocopter? I don't think that's really going to do anything, and these 2 units are going to be busy dealing with the hammerers, so I'm not concerned. I think I can shoot down this big unit of Rangers before anything else gets to me. Turn 1 for the enemy. The Ironbreakers drill out a bit. The Doomseeker hanging out behind them to avoid getting shot. And gyrocopters moving up. 1 down the flank. The enemy Rangers move forwards towards mine, not into range where I would get an easy charge on them though, because if I was charging through the woods, then I would be very unlikely to make it, because with the distance that was left between the 2 units, I would have had to roll a 5 on both charge dice to make it, which is very unlikely, so I'm better off just shooting them instead. The enemy Rangers over there take aim, shoot down 3 hammerers, despite their ward save, which isn't very friendly of them. And into my turn 2. So the hammerers go a bit wider. This is all I could do at the moment because I'm so close to the table edge. I'm not worried about being next to the edge because it's mountain pass, so you can't flee off the edge anyway, or be bumped off the edge, should I say, because obviously they couldn't flee because they've got Ungrim in there, making them unbreakable for now, unless he gets killed, obviously. Which he could. He's not that survivable. He only has a 5+ ward save and a 4+ normal save. And I blast into the enemy again with my Rangers and with the Iron Drakes, and kill a few more of them. So whittling them down, and if they do want to get into a fight here, I think mine are going to win, because I'm a longer line, that's going to be more great weapons hitting back. So, not that eventful so far. Enemy turn 2. Gyrocopter gets into the flank, dropping the steam gun onto the Rangers, and the other one moves up as well. Then the Iron Breakers wisely don't try a charge into the front of the hammerers, because I think that would end badly for them at the moment. If they want to fight me, they want to do it when I'm charging them, so that I don't get double attacks with my regular hammerers. And what I've spotted here, though, is that potentially, if I declare a charge into the Iron Breakers, then I may be able to go wider with drilled and actually touch the Doomseeker first, because I don't want to get charged by him with those impact hits. So I may consider drilling out and then making contact with the Doomseeker with a charge instead, and just killing him and getting him out of the way, and then leaving myself quite wide in front of the Ironbreakers, inviting them to charge me. And if they do, I would then have a lot of hammer attacks coming back at them, or when I say coming back, I'd be going first, because I'd be getting +1 initiative. The enemy would not be getting an initiative bonus because of my banner runes. The steam guns do not too much, they just kill 2 by the look of things. And 3 more hammerers get killed from enemy shooting though. And a couple more rangers die as well as a result of the enemy ranger unit there shooting at them with their crossbows. So we're going to see some action in the next turn because I'm going to be doing a charge, which is hopefully going to get the Doomseeker. So into my turn 3, the Iron Drakes and the Rangers blast away a load more enemy rangers, and the remaining ones fail their leadership test and flee. And they are below 50% of the starting unit now, so they can actually flee. And it was the Iron Drakes that caused the wounds, so they're fleeing from the Iron Drakes. So, what I possibly should have done here is shoot with the Rangers first, because then the direction of flight, if we look at the wide shots, if they had to flee from the Rangers, they would have been fleeing in that direction, which is going to lead them towards the edge where they can actually leave. But because I shot with the Iron Drakes first, then they start fleeing that way. Because I wasn't thinking the Iron Drakes were going to kill enough to force a check immediately. I thought I was going to have to fire more into them, but the Iron Drakes did very well. So, there we go, we've got fleeing Rangers, loads of them dead. The Hammerers do make their charge successfully into the Doomseeker, kill the Doomseeker in a challenge with my Thane, because I didn't want him to kill any of my Hammerers. So, and I wanted to make sure he was dead, and the Thane is the one with the most attacks. When combined with the Shield Bearers anyway. And now we're right in front of those succulent Ironbreakers, so we'll see if they charge me at point blank range and eat a load of hammer attacks next turn. Let's find out. Turn 3 for the evil Dwarves, and no, they don't. They actually back up a bit so the Rangers can shoot me a bit more, which is probably a good idea. The Gyrocopters pop up next to my Rangers to drop some more steam gun templates on them, and the Rangers fail to rally, so they keep running. Which is probably not the worst thing, because they're moving out of the range of the Iron Drakes, so they're not going to get shot quite so much. And the shooting comes in and kills a big pile more Hammerers, which is sad, and now this unit is looking a bit thin on the ground. So, a few more Rangers go down as well, but not many. And you can see this line of Rangers, there's some weirdness going on here. It's not looking a very straight line at the moment. Turn 4, so from this position, what am I going to do? In a tournament setting, I no longer think that this is a good fight to get into, because there's too many Ironbreakers. They are stubborn as well, so I'm not going to wipe them out and kill them in one go. Ungrim, if I charge in, is going to be touching the enemy king, who's got loads of attacks, so he could die. And that would be 315 points just for one character. So, I think in a tournament setting, maybe I'd want to start going backwards now and avoiding this unit entirely, because I don't think I've got enough of them left, and it would take me at least 2 rounds to chew through, by which point Ungrim will probably die. Turn 4 for me. So, my Rangers charge into the enemy Rangers because I want to make them flee again, just to get further and hopefully touch the edge. And Burlock Daminson wounds himself in the dangerous terrain as well. The enemy Rangers just about reach the edge, but this edge can't be left because it's mountain pass, so they have to reach this edge. Now, I'm always a bit confused by the whole flee into the edge, then turn around and start running, or continuing along the edge until you get to a different edge. But I think if they'd gone 1 more inch, they would have actually reached death, these Rangers, but they didn't quite make it. The Gyrocopter also fled after I redirected my charge, and that didn't go very far, electing not to use Swift Stride wisely, so doesn't flee off the table. And there we go, we've just got them running. So if those Rangers fail another rally check next turn, they're going to die, certainly. I decide, why not just get into combat, because this isn't in a tournament, and I want to fight. Let's just get in there, smash everyone's faces. So the Hammerers charge into the Ironbreakers, kill 4 and the runesmith, and don't lose much in return. And the enemy fall back in good order with stubborn, and I choose to follow. Now, I should not really have done that probably. Probably should not have followed, but I was concerned about being shot by a million crossbows again. But what I've now left open is the potential of the rangers joining in the fight. A big line of rangers. They don't have great weapons, importantly, but that could still be quite dangerous if they charge in with loads of attacks there. So turn 4 for the enemy. The rangers in the corner and the gyrocopter rally successfully, so they're not dead yet. The big old line of enemy rangers charge into the hammerers to join in with that fight, but they won't get their initiative bonus. And the steam guns kill 4 more rangers. And they're being a mild irritation, but they're not going to chew through enough to finish off the unit. Ungrim gets killed this time. You saw he got knocked down to 1 wound in the last turn from the enemy king. And I'm not putting any attacks onto the enemy king at all, because I just want to kill the unit of Ironbreakers and then hope that he runs away. Because he's got a 4+ ward save, so a much better chance of killing him by making him flee than I am of actually putting attacks into him. So you can see I put as many attacks as possible into the rangers because they have inferior armour. So I killed 5 of them, 4 Ironbreakers, lost the Hammerer champion in a challenge with the Ironbreaker champion, which is unexpected. And then Ungrim's last wound is taken as well. And I did actually get a good combat result, though. You can see that the enemy Burlock Daminson rolled the artillery dice for his supporting attack, wounded himself in true Burlock Daminson style. And there's the result of the combat res. So my opponent got 8 and I got 14. However, despite that, both units fall back in good order because they're not double outnumbered, so they're able to just pass their unmodified leadership and fall back in good order. So they're now not level with each other though, going into my turn. So if I was to charge into the Ironbreakers again, I wouldn't also have to face the Rangers, which could be important, but we don't have Ungrim anymore, so it would be a risk. And into my turn 5, so what am I going to do in this position? This unit, I am no longer that confident in killing them, because if my Rangers, well, I can shoot them, but I'm probably not going to kill all of them. And the Iron Drakes can't really do much at the moment. This fight is, it went well, but not quite well enough. So I don't know whether I'm going to win the War of Attrition there. Probably not, looking at it. So turn 5. My Rangers start blasting into the enemy Rangers again. They pass their panic check though, despite losing a few. And then we have, this bloodbath continues. 3 on each side get killed. I win the combat because I've got a banner, a BSB, and a Rune of Battle in there as well. And I'm still just about a close order unit as well. The enemy have been knocked out of close order. So I was able to win again. But again, they only fell back in good order. On that leadership 10, they're not double outnumbered. So, wow. Into the enemy next turn. The 2 gyrocopters charge into the Rangers. They're fed up with the steam gun. They realise that's not going to do enough over the course of the game. And the Rangers and the Ironbreakers charge back into my Hammerers, who are running out of bodies now. And not a lot happens. So Burlock Daminson on the enemy side kills himself, which is hilarious. And we get a draw in combat, with 1 Hammerer remaining, 1 Ironbreaker remaining. So big points up for grabs if we can wipe out these 2 units. And nothing happens in this combat with the gyrocopters and the Rangers. I've got a full command in there, so I'm able to draw that combat as well. And yeah, 2 drawn combats. So into my turn 6. The Rangers win in combat this time against the gyrocopters. One of them falls back in good order, one of them gives ground, and I just follow there a bit. So I'm not going to be able to kill these guys now because nothing can reach them. And I kill the Ironbreakers, which is nice. And my Thane takes some wounds from the enemy king. And then the Rangers are still in the fight though. They don't manage to kill the last Hammerer yet, so I'm still clinging on. Got my ward saved still. Turn 6 for the enemy. A couple more Rangers die, nothing to worry about. The Thane gets down to his last wound. And the final Hammerer gets killed as well. So, nothing else happens over here. So that is going to be how the game concludes. So, with the Hammerers dead, that just about tips it into a win for the Evil Dwarves. What have I killed? I've got this unit of Rangers down to below 25%, so I get a small amount of points for them. I've got the Ironbreakers, and I killed a Runesmith as well. And Burlock Daminson killed himself, so I get points for that. I don't get points for killing the Doomseeker. My opponent killed the Hammerers. And I think it was just the Hammerers and Ungrim, wasn't it? So between them, that was just enough. So in a tournament setting, that would have made it an 11-9 win for the Evil Dwarves. And I didn't feel like the Iron Drakes could accomplish much going toe-to-toe, just standing in front of the enemy and shooting, because I felt all those crossbows would have outgunned them in the end. And the enemy could have elected to take Runesmiths out of those units as well, so they wouldn't be flaming attacks, so I wouldn't get my ward save. So I think all those crossbows would have whittled them down if they popped out forwards. I think Iron Drakes, when they come up against massed shooting attacks, I'm often concerned about putting them near the front. They do attract fire. They've got good armour, but against mass fire, they do tend to get whittled down. And at that point, if they end up having to fight someone once they've been whittled, I'm definitely not confident then. So maybe they could have been used better in this game, though, because they didn't really contribute much. They shot up loads of Rangers. And then, if I'd been more confident that my big line of Rangers could have made this unit panic by doing more casualties, I should have fired with them first to make the unit of Rangers flee off the table. At which point, I could have then turned my attention round in this direction and started consolidating my attack over here into the other unit of enemy Rangers. So I think had I done that and make them fled off the table, that probably would have been a different outcome. But over here, I think the Hammerers, as I was expecting, the King was really the one doing all the damage with his 7 attacks with all those runes of fury with a great weapon. Very scary. And he was the one that killed Ungrim, who just doesn't stand up very well to that kind of thing. He's much better against big monsters, especially if you've got him in a unit that's denying that monster an initiative bonus, denying things like impact hits as well. So how do I feel about this list for tournaments? I don't like it. The reason is, I think Hammerers with Ungrim are never going to be able to do their job in a tournament. Because that unit there, just those 2, without any other characters in there, is over 750 points. And your opponent is not going to attack that with anything that they don't want to. Because it's slow, unwieldy. Who's going to attack it? Is a dragon going to attack Ungrim? I doubt it. Probably not. They're just going to eat everything else in the list and ignore him entirely, because an Ungrim attack could kill a dragon in one go. So you would not take the risk in a million years. And there's no reason for you to, because you're how many times faster? You're like over thrice the speed of a dwarf anyway, as a dragon. So why would you even entertain going after them? The only reason you would ever do it is if I had a mega artillery line right behind the Hammerers, who were stretched out in a long line, and if you want to get to the artillery, you have to go through the Hammerers. Even then, it would only be grudge throwers, because they have to be able to see things in most games. So they'd be lobbing and hoping for some lucky hits that aren't going to finish off units, probably, unless they get lucky and land on enemy war machines or chariots or something like that. So I just don't see where the Hammerers are going to get their value in a game. They're just not going to be able to fight very much. Ungrim is fun, and he looks cool, and he can kill big monsters, but he's just not going to be able to fight them. So in a tournament, I don't think that's the way to go. Rangers are obviously great, Iron Drake's obviously great, and I think I'll probably build some kind of list around those 2 units. I've been tipped off that some players that have signed up for this event usually run Wood Elves, which says to me, if I bring anything like an organ gun, it's just going to be killed by poison attacks immediately, and it's going to spend a lot of the game shooting at skirmishers at long range, so it's not going to hit anything either. So, if the local meta is saying that there's likely to be some Wood Elves there, then organ guns probably aren't the way to go. But then again, organ guns aren't competitive anyway, because they compete with Iron Drakes, and they don't hit things very well. So what's it going to be? I'm messing with 2 different lists at the moment before I finally submit the list for this weekend. And let me see. The one I'm looking at right now is actually 11 points over the limits, so that one has to be tweaked. But there's nothing that's obvious to take out of the list. And it would obviously be just taking one model out of a unit. But still not ideal. It's going to be very character heavy though. The 2 lists I'm looking at both have lots of characters in there. And not a lot of units. Because you've got to deny points to the enemy, and that's one way of doing it. So, let me know what you think of Ungrim and the Hammerers, and if you think there is anything to be gained by using them. Do you think they can only work in the Yeet and Greet list, where you take the anvil to blast them across the table, maybe multiple anvils to blast them all the way there to the enemy side of the table straight away? And even then, if you're playing against anything that flies, they'll just fly over you anyway, even if you're right in front of their deployment zone, turn 1. And Wood Elves, for example, wouldn't care about that, they'll just walk away from you. And once you're out of range of the anvils, you're not going to be charging anyone too fast. You're relying on a pony cart to give you extra speed. And I'm definitely not using my pony cart because it's still broken. I've glued it together, but the paint's chipped off, so I don't want to use it in an event in that state. And yes, Dwarf tournament lists are tricky. I'm definitely not going to run the full wide 60 plus unit of rangers full of characters in one long line in a tournament, as hilarious as it would be. I think some of the games would just be really bad, and I think it would give some opponents a negative experience, because certain lists would not be able to deal with that at all. Some would just destroy it very easily, but I don't think it would be conducive to good games of Warhammer, so I'm not going to do that. And maybe by the next Old World event after this one, maybe, just maybe, I might have a different army. If I paint very fast over the next few weeks, I've got a bit of time off work, I have an army that I'm going to be painting as fast as possible, and we'll see how fast that's going to be ready. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is. You'll have to wait and see. I'm not even going to post any pictures of painted units until the whole thing's done either, until I've got a playable amount of units. But I can reveal that none of the models in the army were released after 1998. So any detectives out there might be able to figure out what it is. Very exciting though, and you can look forward to some variety in the Old World content on this channel, because I really didn't like the one game I tried with the vampire counts, and I'd lean away from the legacy renegade factions for the time being anyway, unless they get further support. And Dwarves were my first love in Warhammer, but what was my second love? Maybe you'll find out soon. Okay, time to wrap this one up. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description. There is various social media shenanigans down there. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky as well now, both of those. I've noticed one thing I don't like about Blue Sky actually, other than the fact that like half my new followers seem to be bots. It's the fact that when you post a YouTube link on there, it doesn't show you the thumbnail, or at least it doesn't with mine. So that's one thing marking it down at the moment. There's a Facebook group down there, Discord server, and obviously if you think that these battle reports and tournament reports are a beacon of light, guiding you through the dark hobby seas towards enlightenment and fulfillment, then why not pledge your entire life savings in the Patreon or the PayPal links down there as well? What were you going to do with the money anyway? Probably just fritter it away, whereas I could be spending it on lavish tournament attendance. I don't know if I could actually up my tournament attendance any more than it already is. I think I'm signed up for, on average, about 3 a month for the next several months. Some months I've got 1 every weekend, between Old World and Age of Sigmar and Kings of War and Star Wars Shatterpoint. And that's without even finding any events for Dead Zone recently as well. I would like to play some tournaments for that. There just aren't very many of them around. That game has lost a bit of momentum lately. Mithridas, good evening. We're just wrapping this one up. So, any other final thoughts on the eve of this event? Well, I'm really undecided between these 2 lists, you know. I'm staring at them right now. One of them has an anvil in it, one of them does not. I do like the anvil, but it'll get cannoned off. I do like Ungrim, but he's definitely not going to be in it, I think. And what do we put in instead? Do I like Thorgrim Ulexon? He does a good job. He makes a unit unbreakable as well. He has his own weaknesses, though, as well. Burlock Daminson seems like an auto-include. You'll have to see. I've got a few hours, probably, to submit it before the event tomorrow. And then, most likely Sunday evening, you'll see the report, unless I'm too tired. Which happens occasionally, but usually I do just get back from the tournament and start live streaming straight away. So, hopefully, stay tuned on Sunday, and you'll see 5 juicy, succulent, tender, moist, finger-licking good, dishlicious games of Warhammer The Old World, featuring the mighty Dwarven Mountain Holds. And at this point, all that remains to be said is... good night out there. Whatever you are.